Cowboys lose to the Steelers in their first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, 16-3. Welcome into the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper. I got Isaiah Sandback, Barry Church. I'm Danny Surek here from the Globe Life studio. Nothing to really fret over yet. It's the first of 4 preseason games for the Cowboys. We didn't see a lot of starters in this game. Some of them didn't even travel to Canton, Ohio, stayed back in Oxnard, California. Taking that into consideration, Isaiah, what are your first impressions of the Cowboys so far?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's what you expected. It's a preseason game, right? You saw a couple of your guys that you didn't expect to see in terms of our defense. Our defense up front pretty much was in there. Our linebackers were in there for the most part, our starters. They were running around, flying around, making some plays here and there. But overall, I didn't see the cultural change that I was hoping for in terms of, just that tenacious effort, relentless effort. There were some guys that were making some plays, but overall, I'm looking forward to see a jump next week.
Yeah, I kind of feel what you're saying right there. It wasn't like we saw these guys running with their hair on fire out there or anything like that. Like you said, a couple of guys might have jumped off the screen a little bit here and there, making plays defensively, offensively, but as a unit, as a whole, it didn't really pop out to us like we thought it would coming into this game. But luckily it's preseason game 1 and we got a couple more to go.
There were a few players who stood out in the few reps that they played early on in the game. Defensively, Isaiah, who stood out to you?
Yeah, Parsons. You're talking about Parsons. I think that's what everybody expected, right? But it's one thing to expect it from somebody. It's another thing for them to actually show up. And obviously, we knew they were going to throw him into the fire. And he came out of that thing. He was burning because he was tired, but he did a good job. He was flying around making some plays. He actually got a turnover on a fumble recovery. So overall, I think he did a good job. Obviously, he'll continue to improve, but that's a great start for that young man.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with you on that one. I felt like Parsons definitely impressed me a little bit today. I thought he would be a little bit gassed out there because they had him coming off the edge, being in the middle, calling plays. But he actually held his own out there. You saw he was able to run sideline to sideline out there and actually made a couple tackles by chasing guys from behind. So I love what I saw about him out there. There wasn't a lot of busts in the coverage from what we could see out there. So Parsons, to me, first-round pick, played pretty well in his first preseason game.
Showing his versatility early on. Not a lot of other names that really stood out defensively in this game. So as you start to analyze what we saw in this first preseason game, Barry, where are your main concerns defensively for this team that they need to focus on immediately moving forward?
It was the concern that we had last year, and that's that defensive line. Now, we didn't see Tank Lawrence or Randy Gregory or anything like that, but it was still slightly concerning to me that the running game with Najee Harris and the Pittsburgh Steelers behind their offensive line, who is not that great, they were able to create holes for him to run up in. I mean, there was times where he was getting 5-6 yards a pop before he got touched by any defender for the Dallas Cowboys. So for me, that's still a little concerning. Like I said, we don't have our full cast out there. We had a couple rotational players in there, but overall, I'd like to see a little bit more shore up on the run game going forward into this regular season.
Yeah, I think there are still some of our big dogs that we obviously run our first team that were not there, weren't playing, obviously. But in terms of some of our second line defensemen, Big Bo, that's something that we've been hearing a lot of out of camp. And you were talking about how much of a presence he was going to have, how big of a man he is. And I saw him it was a little bit too reminiscent of Poe last year. I'm not going to put that on him. But from what I saw today, there was a couple of times where he didn't have the right shade. He kind of got moved off the ball the way which you didn't hope for. But again, this is a learning experience for him. He has opportunity to go back, watch the film, and he has three more times to go through before it gets real.
Backup quarterback Garrett Gilbert got the start under center tonight. Quarterback Dak Prescott did not travel to Canton, Ohio, stayed back in Oxnard. He's coming off that muscle strain on his throwing shoulder, his right arm. So Garrett Gilbert got the start. And from what you saw tonight, Barry, how much did Gilbert solidify getting QB2?
I think he played as good as he could have played out there. I mean, honestly, coming into this game, I thought for sure I was a little bit nervous. I remember saying earlier in the pregame, I was saying I'm not sure if our backup quarterback is on this roster. But Gilbert, he proved to be kind of a gamer. Just like last year when he got thrown into the fire against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he went out there today in this preseason game and he was able to deal the ball nicely out there. He put the ball right where the wide receivers can catch the ball out of the defender's hands. He gave the receiver opportunity to run after the catch, which is the hardest thing, in my opinion, to do in the National Football League for a quarterback. But he showed great poise and moxie back there. The offensive line in front of him, that first unit that went out with him, I think they did a pretty good job of continuity and just making sure he was able to stand upright in the pocket and deliver the ball. He's a tall, big guy, strong guy in the pocket. So I like what I saw so far to Garrett Gilbert in this preseason.
Yeah, I thought he had great ball location. That was one of the things I saw. Obviously, being a former quarterback, I thought he had great touch and threw a very catchable ball. He wasn't in there trying to just gunsling it and try to put, try to go like NBA jams and throw a ball through somebody's chest, right? He was throwing a nice soft touch, but a great ball location. And you're talking about from left shoulder to right shoulder, depending on what direction the guy was running, kept it away from the defenders. And also, he had good pocket presence. The one thing I do want to continue to see him improve upon is the timing in the pocket. You saw him hold the ball a little bit too long a couple times. If there's nothing there, throw it away, get out of the pocket, whatever you got to do, don't take a sack.
Quarterbacks Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci also saw some time tonight. Ben DiNucci playing the entire second half. Isaiah, how convinced are you that the Cowboys have their backup quarterbacks already on this roster? You're smiling. Is that good or bad?
I gave you the double blink. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced at all. I think there's going to be a lot of roster cuts, a lot of casualties, but I think Gary, as well as Gary Gilbert did tonight, I don't know if he's that guy right now. As far as DiNucci and Cooper Rush, they didn't look good. No. They're just being transparent. They did not look good. They look like they're young. They look like they have a lot more growth, and they do, right? But the reality is, the NFL doesn't necessarily wait around for you to have those developments. So they need to pick it up. They have 3 more weeks to kind of go out there and show what they can do. But the reality is tonight was their best opportunity as far as reps.
And for me, I think overall, Gilbert, I think he did the best he could, like I said, and I think it's a one-horse race now for that backup. I'm not sure if the backup is even on this roster right now, but DiNucci and Cooper Rush, they just didn't prove to me that they had the moxie back there. It felt like the lights were too big for them over there. DiNucci, he did play better than what we saw in that Sunday night game last season, but overall, I just didn't see what I needed to see out of him to say, okay, we got our backup on this roster right now. There's still a couple more preseason games left for them to prove their worth out here, but right now, it's Dak, and it's a huge drop off after that.
I know while watching the game, the two of you were set on the offensive line. Cowboys did not send starters right guard Zach Martin or left tackle Tyron Smith out to Canton, Ohio. Starting right tackle Lyle Collins did get a few reps. He's coming off that hip injury. However, we mostly saw backups, different combinations along the offensive line. Isaiah, what are your first impressions of the depth on this offensive line?
I thought that the first unit that came out there, which was, had a couple of our core offensive linemen, they did pretty well. I thought they did pretty well. They held a nice little pocket, which is why Gary Gilbert was able to get some of those balls off, right, and feel confident enough to throw to make those deliveries. But once that second unit came in, it got a little shaky. And it was surprising. There was guys like Knight and Steele, and guys of that nature that had a lot of playing time last year that were giving up a lot of plays tonight. So I was very surprised of that. But hopefully they just got a little rust. They shake it off. Obviously they come back this Saturday and have opportunity to play against the Rams in practice. And then we'll have another preseason game next week against Arizona.
Yeah, the surprising thing for me was, like you said, Knight and Steele, two of the guys who had a lot of playing time last year with a lot of injuries to the offensive line, they both kind of struggled out there. I mean, yes, the quarterbacks were holding the ball a little bit long, but overall that edge, it just kept compressing. And those are the guys that you would think would be in position to be that swing tackle or that backup tackle across the board. And they just didn't provide, to me, a great depth today. But we'll see going on in this and further on in this preseason if they're able to get their game up.
Special teams has a significant impact not only throughout a regular season game, but also a major impact on some of these rookies or players who don't have a lot of experience on solidifying a spot on the roster. And the two of you spent a lot of time on special teams throughout your career, so I know you were keeping your eye out in tonight's game on special teams. Isaiah, did anyone stand out to you?
Yeah, I think Malik Turner. Obviously, he's fighting for that number 6 position at the receiver. I think we're all pretty confident in saying 1 through 5 is pretty much all locked up. Now that 6th position really comes down to Simi Fehoko, Malik Turner, some of those guys. And I thought he did a great job. And you could tell the confidence that the coach, the special teams coach, has, Coach Fossil, by putting him at personal protector. And for those that don't know, that's like the quarterback of special teams. And so he did a great job in that role. Obviously, he has some plays on offense he has to figure out. But on that side of the ball, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think overall special teams played pretty well. I'm not sure if we didn't see CJ Goodwin out there at all, who's kind of their special teams ace. Yeah. He just got paid a lot of money to be their special teams ace, but I didn't see him out there. I think Turner, he did a pretty good job out there on the special teams wise, and the long snapper who replaced long-time veteran LP out there. His snaps seem to be on point for the most part. I know we don't have our kicker right now. He's dealing with some injuries, but we need him back quick because there was definitely some hooked and some missed field goals out there. But for the most part, I felt like the special teams held it down.
Let's be optimistic. What was the bright spot of tonight's game, Barry?
To me, I'm gonna say it was Double G. It was Gilbert out there. I felt like him and that first unit of offensive linemen, they did a pretty good job out there. He was able to stand in that pocket. He kind of took control of that offense. Like Isaiah said, his ball location was pretty pristine out there. So I like what I saw from Gilbert out there in that first unit offensive line. But after that, it kind of dropped off a little bit. So right now, my MVP goes to Garrett Gilbert.
We walked out there healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
small
huge,
victory.
Right? Following last year, that is huge. So we got some reps, we got some film study, we got some real competition out there, and guys walked out there for the most part. As far as we know, we walked away healthy. So that's all positives, and you can build off of that.
This Hall of Fame game kicks off a celebratory weekend. Hall of Famers being inducted and enshrined this weekend. 3 of them, former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Drew Pearson, safety Cliff Harris, and former head coach Jimmy Johnson, who won 2 Super Bowls here in Dallas. Here are your final stats from the Hall of Fame game. Cowboys falling to the Steelers 16-3. Be sure to stay locked in on DallasCowboys.com. Cowboys-Rams scrimmage this Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch that on DallasCowboys.com. Isaiah Standback will be out there in Oxnard, California. Our eyes on the ground. Guys, we're inching close to that season opener against the reigning Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, September 9th. We're getting close to that. We want to thank you for joining us here on The First Word. For Isaiah Standback and Barry Church, I'm Danny Serac. Have a great night.